Hong Kong, 1964. The film crew sets up their equipment with quiet confidence. They have filmed kung fu masters before. They are not prepared for what comes next. Bruce Lee stands across the set, relaxed, almost bored. A technician adjusts the camera. Standard frame rate, 24 frames per second. Enough to capture anything a human body can produce, or so they believe. This is the story of a man so fast, the technology of his era could not prove he existed. Bruce Lee in 1964 is not yet a global icon. He is 23 years old, lean at 135 pounds, teaching Wing Chun in Oakland to anyone willing to pay $5 a lesson. He is fast. Everyone who trains with him says so, but fast is a word people use loosely. What Bruce Lee possesses is something different, something that cannot be described with ordinary language. His students talk about his 1-inch punch, a strike delivered from 1 inch away that sends a 200-pound man flying backward into a chair. They talk about his 2-finger push-ups, his ability to snatch a coin from a person's palm and replace it with another before the hand could close. These are not party tricks. These are symptoms of something deeper. But to understand why this mattered, we need to go back. Bruce Lee is born in San Francisco in 1940 but raised in Hong Kong. By the age of 13, he is already in street fights, not because he is reckless, because the streets of Kowloon demand it. He begins training Wing Chun under the legendary IP Man at 14. But Lee is not content to simply learn. He studies, he dissects, he questions everything his teachers tell him. He reads physics textbooks to understand force and momentum. He studies anatomy to learn where muscle connects to bone. He trains with weighted wrists and ankles not to build size, but to build explosive neuromuscular speed. While other martial artists perform katas in slow repetition, Bruce Lee performs movements at full speed over and over until the nervous system stops thinking and simply fires. By his early 20s, the people around him are starting to sense something unusual. Not just speed, precision at speed, and that combination is almost impossible to train. Now into the camera. In 1964, a film production team approaches Lee about a demonstration. The crew is professional. They have filmed athletic sequences before. Boxers, wrestlers, track athletes. They set up their standard camera at 24 frames per second. This is the industry norm, fast enough to capture a punch in clean motion. What they did not know was that Bruce Lee's strike velocity had already been clocked by researchers at the University of Wisconsin at somewhere between 0.05 seconds and 0.1 seconds for a full punch. The camera at 24 frames per second captures 1 frame every 0.04 seconds. A Bruce Lee strike crosses the frame gap entirely. The camera sees the arm at position A, then it sees the arm at position Z. Everything in between simply does not exist on film. The technician plays back the footage. He leans forward. He rewinds it. He plays it again. He turns to his colleague and says nothing, because there is nothing to say. The strike is invisible, not blurred, not fast. Invisible. Lee stands there calm. He has seen this reaction before. If you spend too much time thinking about a thing, you'll never get it done, Lee later says. He is not bothered by the camera's failure. He is not surprised. He has been living in a body that moves faster than comprehension for years. The camera is simply another person in the room who cannot keep up. The crew makes a decision. They bring in a camera capable of shooting at 64 frames per second, nearly 3 times the standard rate. They ask Lee to strike again. This time they get something. A blur, a trace, the ghost of a movement. The arm appears, streaks across the frame, disappears. Even at 64 frames per second, the full mechanics of the strike cannot be cleanly isolated. What the footage reveals is not a punch. It is evidence that a punch occurred. And then Bruce Lee did something no one in the room expected. He slowed down on purpose. He asked the crew to film him again, this time performing the movement at roughly half speed. He wanted them to see the mechanics, the hip rotation, the shoulder drop, the elbow alignment, the way the wrist locks at the point of impact. He was not showing off, he was teaching. Even in a room full of people who doubted what they had just seen, Lee's instinct was not to dominate, it was to educate. That moment changes the room entirely. Witnesses present that day describe a shift in the energy of the crew. One technician reportedly sits down and stares at the slow-motion playback for several minutes without speaking. A camera operator later says he has never seen anything like it in 15 years of film work. The footage of that slow demonstration becomes one of the most studied pieces of martial arts documentation in the following decades. The faster footage, the footage that caught only the blur, gets used in Lee's films and demonstrations with a specific instruction to the editing team: do not slow it down in post. If you slow it down, the technique disappears entirely and the audience will think it is a camera error. Show it at real speed. Let the audience see only the result. This is the moment that defines Bruce Lee's relationship with cinema. He is not limited by it. He works around it. He understands the technology better than the people operating it, and he uses that understanding to control how his image is constructed on screen. Here is what this story is really about. Bruce Lee's speed is not the lesson. The lesson is what produced the speed. It was not genetics. Researchers who studied his physique noted he had no unusual skeletal or muscular structure. His forearm circumference was comparable to an average man of his size. What he had was an obsessive relationship with efficiency. The removal of every wasted movement, every unnecessary tension in the body, every hesitation in the mind. Notice that the stiffest tree is most easily cracked, Lee once said, while the bamboo or willow survives by bending with the wind. He applied this to his entire body, loose until the moment of contact, relaxed until the millisecond the strike lands, then everything at once. The camera could not capture him because he had eliminated everything the camera was waiting to see. There was no wind-up, no telegraph, no preparation, just stillness and then completion. Hong Kong, 1964. The camera rolls again. The technician watches the monitor. Lee stands across the room, relaxed, almost bored. The arm moves. The screen shows nothing. And somewhere in that gap between frames, in that invisible fraction of a second that no technology could account for, is the entire philosophy of a man who believed that the obstacle and the answer were always the same thing. You do not fight the limit, you move before it notices you. What would you have done if the camera couldn't prove you existed?